stillness and just letting things settle for a little bit has so much power. I was reading Ephesians chapter 6, and we come to the scriptures of 15 through 17. 14 actually through 17. And it talks about the armor of God. And I will always just look at it as the armor, just like armor. But I decided to sit with this for a second. And I've been sitting with this for a while, and I'm still on the first armor, the first piece of equipment. And just sitting with this, God is very intentional in what he does. He doesn't do things randomly. He's very intentional. And I'm sitting here reading this, and the first thing that 14 tells us is stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth. And I'll stop there. Let's focus on each piece. Why the loins? Why the loins? Why not knee pads? Why not pants? Why not legs? But why the loins? And I knew what the loins were in the moment, just using my own knowledge. Then I just made sure, looked it up. The loins are your sexual organs, your sexual reproductive. It's in that area. Why the loins? It tells us to guard our loins with the truth. So that made me think and analyze why. Then I started to observe a world filled with lust, a world filled with one-night stands, a world filled with dopamine rushes, a world filled with drunkenness, deceptions, distractions. Lust is heavily promoted in this world. I started to dig a little bit deeper. I said, yo, let's go to some precepts. Let's go to precepts about lust, because lust is just what kept on popping up in my mind. Loins with the truth. Why would we need the loins? Why would we need truth with our loins? Clicked. Because we can't be thinking with our sexual organs. We have to think with our spirit. We have to be led with our spirit. And I know lust is very dangerous. So doing some research, looking at a whole bunch of precepts, I come to Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. But I say unto you that whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her have committed adultery with her already in his heart. Galatians 5:16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. 1 Corinthians 6:18. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man does is without the body, but he that commits fornication sins against his own body. One Thessalonians 4:3. For this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that you should abstain from fornication. 2 Timothy 2:22. Flee also youthful lust. Flee. But follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace with them that call on the Lord of a pure heart. And I started thinking a little bit more, right? The armor of God. When you put on an armor, You're going to war. And I know that this isn't a physical war because Ephesians 6:12, 11 and 12, 11 says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, the attacks of the devil. We go to 12, it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high place. So we put on this armor to go into a spiritual warfare. And when 2 Timothy tells us to flee youthful lust but follow righteousness, that's why we have to have our loins girded with the truth. So we don't fall and lose the war. We don't lose the battle to the lust. We don't lose the battle to the fornicating. 1 Corinthians 6:13, meats for the belly, and the belly for the meats, but God shall destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Wow. Job 31:1 really made me stop for a second. Shows how deep this is. Job said, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? Not even look, let alone think. Why would I even think of a maid? And I'm sitting here. Why is loin so important? Then we look at what's going on in the world. Look at how promoted lust is. Willingly and unwillingly, knowingly and unknowingly. Look at the clothes that people are wearing. Look at the music that's being taught, that's being sung. Look at the traditions of man. Scripture tells us about that, to not follow that. But look at the traditions of man. I've observed that a lot of self-help, or people in general, right, promotes sex. Have more sex, have more sex, more sex, more sex. That can lead people down a dark path. The relaxation, calmness, all these things, but don't teach the destruction that comes for that. I see why God specifically chose loins. That's the truth. You can't be led astray by man when you know the truth. God is always intentional.